So I've been doing two things today. One of them was a poster presentation that I had down here earlier, and that was reporting on some work that I was involved in around widening participation. It was some funded theatre in education from HEFCE, from the National Networks of Collaborative Outreach. So HEFCE funded a series of projects. We were looking at their interactive maps where you can drill down in into some of the demographic data. So we were looking at what they call these red spots, where there are these unexplained gaps in participation in higher education. So there are sort of high achieving schools but low participation in HE. So we were able, with these interactive maps, we're able to target outreach work, particularly around widening participation. We commissioned a theatre company, and we focused, a lot of these red spots, I should say, are in rural areas and in coastal areas. So we chose to look at rural areas where there are very particular challenges for young people in their decision making around options and the directions that they take. So we did a series of workshops, and then with those workshops we then commissioned the theatre company to reflect a lot of those issues and challenges that the young people were talking about back to them in this theatre in education production that taught to around 8,000 young people in Dorset and Somerset. On the back of that, there were some digital resources that were developed, and I was showing some of those initial resources. They're actually being taken on and developed further through the next stage of funding, which is the NCOP, or National Collaborative Outreach Programme. So those resources are being developed, and I'm hoping that they're going to be eventually stored in one of the HEFCE repositories, so that they can be made accessible to anybody. So that was the poster, and then just about an hour ago I was giving a paper upstairs which was reporting on some work I did with a colleague of mine in the School of Management at the University of Bath called Robin Shields, and we were looking at outcomes for BTEC students. So it was a mixed method study. Essentially we were asking the question, young people are being told that different entry pathways are equivalent, or they certainly are in terms of tariff points, but we were taking a step back and saying, okay, so what are the actual outcomes for young people who take these different routes? So we were looking at HESA data sets to look quantitatively at what the outcomes were, and then we did some qualitative work as well with focus groups with students in pre and post 92 universities. The criteria for entry was that they'd all come through a different entry pathway. So BTEC, A-levels, International Baccalaureate, access to HE, NVQs and so on. So it was great to get that rich, in-depth data to help us sort of understand learner identities and the types of skill sets that they're arriving at higher education institutions with, and just think about the implications for pedagogy, for marketing, for helping us think about students are making a long-term financial investment by coming to higher education, and I think it's important that students understand where those skill sets that they gain from their different qualifications are likely to where they're going to be best supported, if you like. In terms of the paper and the work around different qualifications, different entry pathways to higher education, I think the thing I want people to take away is the importance of recognising that students are coming through these different pathways, and these pathways are giving them, it's not a homogeneous skill set, and it's important that as tutors, as lecturers, we are able to recognise that students are arriving speaking these different languages, and it's our role, if you like, is going to be increasingly important for us to be able to facilitate discussion among those different languages. And it's going to be increasingly important that tutors and lecturers are aware of those different skill sets and how to best utilise them in order to help students achieve their potential. This is absolutely, I take my hat off to Dave Webster for organising this. I think at any higher education institution, these types of events are really the sort of lifeblood of it's a culmination of the different research, the different teaching that's going on here. It gives us a chance to meet colleagues from across the different campuses that we may not normally get a chance to meet. I've hooked up with 2 or 3 people that I've never met before. I've already invited them across to speak to our teams, for example, around how to develop blended learning, distance learning, how to incorporate that more thoroughly into our own, embed that within our own teaching practices. I think it's been exciting, fun, get to hear a lot about what research is going on around the university, and a great networking opportunity, not just with other members of staff, but with students.